Okay, so welcome everybody to today's session. We have here Sarah Bolvert. Hopefully, I'm saying that right, Sarah, after all these years. And the session title is How the New Collar Jobs Can Bridge the Wealth Gap. So I'll leave you with Sarah.
Thank you so much, Norella. It is really an honor to be here with Fab Cities and to be able to share all of our efforts that are happening around the world. So thank you so much for inviting me. It was actually Monique that invited me to speak. Um, what has happened today is that what used to be blue collar jobs are now digital. And even things like our UPS delivery man, and now we don't do signatures, everything is electronic, and the world has really changed. Ginny Rometty, the CEO at the time of IBM when Mr. Trump was elected, wrote an open letter to Mr. Trump and said, I'm just thrilled that you want to bring back those manufacturing jobs, but we don't want the old kind of steel mill workers and coal miners. We want new collar jobs. And I thought that so embodied exactly what's happening. Our blue collar jobs and our white collar jobs excuse me?
Sorry about that. I think he missed it, but yeah.
Oh. Have become what Ginny calls new collar jobs. And we're seeing a lot of change and a lot of jobs are being lost to automation. But at the same time, the World Economic Forum predicts that many new kinds of jobs that didn't exist before, and they're estimating twice the number of jobs that will be lost to automation will need workers with these new collar skills that are digital skills. I did some research a few years ago with 200 manufacturers on what were the kinds of skills that they were looking for. And the number one skill that 95% of the employers wanted was problem solving. And this is primarily because our technologies are evolving so rapidly, and we're starting to see real changes happening in the workplace that no one knows how to solve. And so these problem solving skills are really essential as technology is taking over in so many areas across industries that were not traditionally tech industries. They were also looking for hands-on experience with these new tools. They were looking for digital and computer skills, which I thought might have been first, but things like CAD design, things like machine learning, augmented reality, virtual reality, AI. And these new machines are needing an interaction with the humans. So these digital skills are really important. They were looking for people who could do 3D printing as 3D printing was becoming more important across industries. And of course, as all of us know who work in the Fab Lab world, also service techs for 3D printing was a big one. As all of us know, 3D printing is not always the most reliable, as demonstrated by this picture. Um, and so what I realized when I got done the research is that a new kind of training and education is needed, that for the employers, they're looking for people with problem solving skills that are not always trained, problem skills that are not always emphasized in the kinds of trainings that we see. And for the students, things were really changing. They were looking for engaging, affordable, time effective. People who go to college today don't always follow the trajectory that they used to. And so often The skills are skills that have to be gained while they're also dealing with things like childcare or transportation issues. And so I started to think about this and I thought, this is exactly what we learn in Fab Labs. I mean, we've learned how to identify and solve authentic problems and critical thinking. And we get a lot of hands-on practice, and also our labs tend to work quite well in teams. And it really changed what I was thinking about. I thought I was going to write a 2-year curriculum for a community college, and started to really see that something very different had to happen. A large part of the driver there is that people have this myth that going to college is how they will gain wealth. And what we're seeing is that for a lot of underserved populations, they have low completion rates, that many people go to college and only 15% um, actually stay on for 2 or 4 years and complete their degrees. As we all know, college debt is through the roof, and people are getting out of college, and even if they get a job in their field where they're making, say, 95 or $100,000, that's still a difficult a path that they've set themselves on, because their college debt is often upwards of $100,000, and it takes quite a lot of time once you calculate in the interest payments to pay that off. And also failure to find work. We've convinced people that they have to go to college, but there have been studies that have shown, including one in Baltimore, that it's really the STEM fields, so science, technology, engineering, and math, where there is an increase in pay if you have one of those degrees. And so if you don't have the inclination or the aptitude to go into a STEM field, and you end up getting a degree in, say, something like English literature, you may not be able to find work that will allow you to pay back that college debt. And ending up as a barista in Starbucks, which is not really the path that I think people were looking for. And so for that reason, we've seen in the United States, we've seen an 11% decline in college enrollment in the 10 years prior to COVID. And we all know what happened during COVID, where it exacerbated the problem. Many of the community colleges in particular in the United States have been very hard hit. Here where I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, our community college enrollment is down as much as 40%. And so the colleges are really having to rethink how do we educate our people. And I really think that having a new kind of education model in order to train people for these new collar jobs is what's going to lead to these well-paying career pathways that will allow us to bridge that wealth gap, because it just keeps getting larger and larger. Our middle class, at least in the United States, is going away. They're becoming extinct. And one of the ways that I really see is through new models like Fab Academy, models like digital badges that are skill specific, and micro certifications that are very short term. And also we are a big proponent of the US Department of Labor's registered apprenticeships. And for all of the Europeans who, of course, have never abandoned this model, you all know how powerful a registered apprenticeship can be. But in the United States, they had really been relegated to an old school idea and need to come back, but they need to come back for 21st century jobs. And so we worked with IBM and America Makes, the Additive Manufacturing Institute here in the United States, as well as Youngstown State University in Ohio, and the Urban Institute in Washington, and created a registered apprenticeship for a 3D printing technician. And we use our digital badges, our micro certifications, as the education component, as well as the IT badges that IBM offers. And this way we're able to give people a pathway to well-paying jobs that are also engaging and interesting. The guy in this picture always says he worked for a company I used to own that built lasers, and he always says, everybody can have a bad day at work. Not every day is great, but how bad can it be when you get to play with lasers? And I really think that's true. I think these are really jobs that are stimulating and engaging. And I think that's a very important part, in addition to pay. My apprentices in Santa Fe, our they are paid $40,000 a year, and they get all of the digital badges at no cost. The employer pays for it. And once they complete the program, which is 6 months to a year, depending upon where they enter, they start at $60,000 a year with no college debt and no college degree. And that is in a very rural state that is has low wages, and in a state that is larger with in a more urban, I would imagine that those salaries would be substantially higher, probably a third higher. And and so people always say to me, well, how will these people get hired? And Ginny Rometty, who I mentioned earlier from IBM, and Tim Cook from Apple led a task force during the Trump administration on workforce policy. And it resulted in the president issuing an executive order that all of the federal hiring practices, and the US government is our largest employer in the nation, but all of the agencies have to reevaluate how they hire people and start looking at skills as well as degrees, which is big for the hiring side of it. And so it really seems that as technology is being embraced by everything from the dentist office to hospitals to Walmart has robots now who are cleaning the stores, and they told us at a National Governors Association meeting, their big worry is who's going to fix those robots, those janitorial robots. And I think as we start to see this capability of people to get affordable short-term training and to move into areas where they can get jobs that are meaningful, but that also allow them to support their families. And I think as we are able to support our families, there is always much less political strife. And if you want more data on the research that I did a few years ago, this is the book that was published by Photonics Media Press, which is a laser and photonics publisher who I'd worked with for many years, and their magazines. And if you have questions, Narella, do we have time for a question or not?
Sure. If you want to have people like raise their hands or just speak up, they can do it. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So far in the chat, I don't have any questions, but I don't know if anyone wants to speak up.
Well, my email was there if anyone has a question that they want to email me. I'd be happy to answer any of those questions. I don't know if the situation that we are dealing with in the US is the same in Europe. But in the US, where we live, it has been sad to me to see, the change that has happened and where apprenticeships are not valued. And we're starting to see a real return to that thanks to President Biden, who has gotten Congress to pass a large amount of legislation and that is increasing funding for apprenticeships. But I really feel like they need to, move into the 21st century. That apprenticeships, I think, in the US, people think of it as, electricians or HVAC, heating and air conditioning workers. And if we're going to get people excited, particularly young people, about these kinds of education models, we really need for them to uh, um, be in topics that are interesting. Um, we we also uh, uh, we also did some research for a grant we were writing for the state of New Mexico. And in my very rural, very backward, this is very different from where I came from in Cambridge. We found 1,000 jobs that are today and through the next few years for people who have 3D printing experience. I'm not, I'm a laser girl, so 3D printing's okay, but you have to go kind of where people are excited. Uh, and so we started there, and partially because we had funding from America Makes, but I think we have to bring them into the 21st century. So there's a question here. Do you have a list of 1 to 2 year apprenticeships and or tech training programs that train in the new collar industries? I can post that. Off the top of my head, there's some out of the Robert Byrd Institute in West Virginia. There are ours, of course. There are some out of Youngstown State University. IBM does a lot with IT type. They do things with cybersecurity. I can email that and I'll post it on our website. And then Norella, you could, send the link to people.
Yeah.
And the slide, actually, we're going to record this. And so we can, for Richard's comment, I'm glad you like the slides. This is a shortened version of a much longer talk that I give that we're also going to put on the New Color Network website. But I can put the slides up if you particularly want those in addition to the
Yeah, Sarah, just send me like the links or the videos that you want, and
Okay.
we'll put them as part of comments in the same session in the platform so that people can just watch them and look at them. And this has been recorded, so we will then basically upload all the content of the conference like by the beginnings of September, we think. It's a lot. Yeah, they're sending you an email over there.
Yes,
I don't know if anyone has any other question.
And Angela, where are you located?
I'm in the suburbs of Chicago.
Oh, cool. I work really extensively in the Midwest, so I can connect with you, and I might be in Chicago for the Rapid Conference through the Society of Manufacturing Engineers in September. So yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch, and I just copied your email. And everyone has my email, but I'll put it here again. We figured out during COVID too how to do some of our classes virtually by drop shipping a $265 Ender printer. And being a very rural state, we're the 6th largest state in the country, but we only have a population of about 2 million people. We are mostly reservation land, and that was really helpful to a lot of our people to be able to work from home. And we're going to continue it. And we make our curriculum. The New Color Network is a nonprofit that was started by 10 Fab Labs and community colleges, Lorain County community colleges. Kelly Zalesnik, who you might know, who I think they're a super lab, and Nathan Pritchard in at the Tulsa Fab Lab, and Kathy Chen at the Fab Lab El Paso. We started this so that we could develop something that would be vetted. So the New Color Network is a recognized organization in the Fab Lab network. And so we vet the curriculum, and whenever we add new courses, we have our core committee that ensures the quality of the program, and we adhere to the international standards of the Fab Lab, not the Fab Lab, but the open badge system that you may have heard Jeff Wah talk about. I think he was going to give a talk on the open badge concept. And so it's a really robust program, and we're just in the midst of updating the website, but it's pretty comprehensive.
Anyone else has any comments, questions, suggestions?
Yeah, hi, this again. Hi, this is Dai, but I'm not from the US. I'm from the Vietnam and Ho Chi Minh City. And actually, what you say about the appreciation and the real skill for the people who in here, and it will be very interesting, because even for me, I am nearly 30 until now, and I still a lot of competition, and the rest, a lot of big gap from what I learned when I graduate from my university. Actually, I have not complete everything, but something is very big gap from the people until now and the trends of the world, and still have a small debt and to pay for the tuition. But from this, may I ask you how long from this open bed had been developed through the U.S., in maybe Mexico or the U.S. city community, and how is the result of it? I just wonder, because it is quite you a higher technology and you have a lot of democracy system than in us, but we're just one.
We started issuing the badges, I think 3 years ago. I did a pilot in Santa Fe at the community college in our city. And then COVID struck. So, so we had just been getting going with we have about 14 or 15 sites in North America, and then COVID struck and everything was shut down. So we're just starting up again. But the level of interest from the students in particular is amazing, and from the employers. And we just got a grant from the state of New Mexico to do a boot camp. So for people who are unemployed, will come for 4 weeks, and we have about 1,000 jobs open in the state. We also were able to hire in our apprenticeship program 2 people who were displaced by COVID. So they had lost their jobs and were on unemployment insurance, and didn't like staying home. They really wanted to do something, and they were both in the restaurant hospitality business and are so happy to, not be working those 18-hour days for no pay. And so I feel like we've really been able to uh, um, um, to change people's lives. So
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's very great.
yeah.
When we see something is a lot of things change, and even from the curriculum. So do you but because it's training something to in the context of the fab lab equipment and something any of I know because most of the college vocational college in the US have developed very well for equipment for the fab lab, to prepare for the training. But any, is a, but any of the case from the community lab, to pursue, a functional to provide the training and the equipment to matching, because I know, for example, Intel or other company, they use for lots of high technology or, and they need some of people who maintain a bit and understand it. But from the level of the community, sometimes we are just basic student. So what is it's really big gap for you to provide for the community who very entry level, and we just have this for basic tool.
Well, we do project-based learning. So we're able to I can have a class with, for example, design for 3D printing. I taught it maybe 5 years ago. I had 3 PhDs from Los Alamos, the national lab in New Mexico that invented the atom bomb, sadly, but that has still a lot of scientists and engineers. So I had 3 PhDs. I had 2 artists who made jewelry. I had, and actually this is, which probably you can't see, this is a ring of one of the, whoops, it's this way, one of the pueblos here in, on the native reservations that was designed in that class. I had a couple of biofuels students from the community college and 2 retirees who were just taking it for fun. And in that class, with that wide range of skills, because we do project-based learning and because it's more like a design studio, they can work at their own pace. And so my PhDs were using Maya and Fusion 360, and my artists were using Tinkercad. And so it's because of the way that we teach that we are able to have a mixed class like that. And it's the portfolio that demonstrates to the employer how they solve the problem. So they have to identify a problem in their life. They have to come up with a solution and then iterate the solution, and then at the end photograph or videotape how they solve the problem and show the final thing. So I can have a class that's very mixed. And I'm gonna jump to a question from Richard about the America Makes presentation. That was a presentation by Josh Kramer. So my first batches were developed with a grant or a contract with America Makes 3 or 4 years ago. And those are for high school level or above. And somehow they got some COVID funding last year in 2019, and for job training because of displaced workers. And we took my badges and we developed a curriculum based on that, and training materials that are mostly animation for middle school students. And so it was piloted, I ran that program, and it was piloted at my lab at the Gregory School in Tucson, and at Fab Lab El Paso, and then at the 3D printing store in Denver. They were working with the public schools, and it was good. It went very well, and the animations are adorable. And so a little girl, a little Black girl named Aaliyah, is the one who kind of leads the kids through it. So it's not some old lady like me who is telling the kids. It's somebody who looks like them. And again, it was project based. It's a little harder because it can be self-directed, and the modules will be on the America Makes website. I don't know that they've announced that yet. But I'm going to turn that into badges. So on the America Makes website, there should be access to the materials, but then we are in the next 30 days or so going to offer badges for middle schoolers. So it's a nice pathway to the high school level. And again, what drives it is the project. A middle schooler might, and the examples from the animation is a middle schooler might make a hook to hang up their backpack, whereas our high school students might be doing something more sophisticated. We had a high school student who created a way for her aquarium lights to not burn the plants in her hydroponics system. So it's the problem that drives it. So you can really reach people where they are. And Richard, where are you located?
I'm based in the Saigon, Fab Lab Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. And Richard's in the state of Washington. Cool. Very cool.
I was just trying to take off my my mute. Yeah, I'd love to follow up with you later on this. I managed a session at Nation of Makers also, and my team's been working on some micro enterprise. I'm sorry, micro learning modules for sewing machine instruction. And we developed some animated characters that kind of look like the world. Actually, a couple of years ago, I'm totally on your wavelength there for the power of animations in this kind of learning modality. And we were using, I can't even remember the name of the software. In any event, are you in Santa Fe?
I am.
Okay. You don't happen to know Richard Lowenberg, an old buddy of mine, do you?
That name is familiar.
He's an artist. He would be like in his late 70s. I think he lives a little bit north of town, but he does occasional installations, fools around with Meow Wolf and whatnot. Yeah. In any event, I distract. Thank you very much. But I think the animations are extremely powerful for exactly why you said. It's just not the talking head of a boring instructor.
Right, exactly. And I think particularly for the younger ages.
I completely agree. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Santa Fe is the capital of New Mexico and is an artist colony. It is just an extraordinary place. So if any of you ever are looking for a place to visit in the US, we have a very large Native American population that is just as beautiful pottery and weavings that lived in pueblos, so a very ancient culture. And we have a large Latino population because the conquistadors came like 400 years ago. And so we have a very interesting mix of people here. And he referred to Meow Wolf. Meow Wolf, Vince Katulak, I think is his last name, was one of the co-founders of Meow Wolf. And he spoke in Neil's Fabricating Experience event on Monday, and then spoke for me in the afternoon at our event. But it's a phantasmagorical art installation, and they are in Santa Fe and in Las Vegas now, and soon to open in Denver. So it's an immersive art experience, and if you get a chance, ever to participate, it's a lot of fun. I have to do a radio interview in a few minutes, so unless there's